Hi guys, this is Kelly. I'm not sure what kind of video I'm supposed to do for this project, being that we can't be somewhere that I can read a PowerPoint. So I thought maybe I would just tell you a little bit about Nicaragua and why I chose it. Nicaragua is somewhere I've been. I went for my 40th birthday. I wanted to give instead of acknowledge I was 40, I think. The people are wonderful. There's a lot of unrest, but there was none any with us that were visiting and teaching and medical care. We got to spend time. We were there for 10 days, so you get to know people pretty well in 10 days. They are very authentic people. They just tell you like it is, but in a kind way. Very authentic, very family motivated, on top of a little bit of suspicion. They are Catholic mostly, and where I was, but they put a little bit of mix of goddesses in there also with everybody's town. They all have their own saint and their own god or goddess. So Nicaragua is the largest country in Central America. It is also the second poorest. It is poor. It's bad. The company that I went with is called ISLA, Interfaith Services for Latin America. And what we did down there is our mission is to help specifically this town of Jalapa, who is very impoverished. They even, you'll see some of the pictures where they're still cooking with a cast iron pot over pieces of wood in their home. They are trying to help this area of the world. I have the demographics for the entire country. I didn't get to get them just for Jalapa, but the pregnancy rate on teens is staggering, to say the least. We have 2% of our teens now, since we've knocked it down by a lot in America, still get pregnant, and about 2%, and that goes all the way up to age 19. So for me, between 18 and 19, I would think you're not a teen, but they say that is a teen pregnancy, but only about 2% here. But in Jalapa and in Nicaragua, it's 25% of the young women have their first baby by 18. And quite truthfully, where I was, anybody that was about 18 already had 2 or 3. This is partly because they have a failing school system. The kids don't go because mom and dad can't afford to send them. Yes, it is a free country, not a free country, it's authoritarian right now, but it's free schooling, and they say it's mandatory, but in these rural places, the schooling is free, but they still have to have all the uniforms and the books and lunches and all of those things you could possibly need for elementary school or senior high school child. And that's normally about $300 a year. I'm not counting the food, but in the uniforms per child. To put that into context, that $300 or so American money is an entire year's wages for a family in Nicaragua, at least in the part I was. When you do go visit Nicaragua, everybody comes in through Managua. Managua is the capital. Managua is huge. Managua is where you're going to find your early childhood education, unfortunately. They haven't moved it to up in the hills, up in the areas that desperately need it. There are some things that are amazing. The towns are bright colors everywhere. You'll see in um, the PowerPoint. You'll see that their buildings are falling apart for the people that live there, but they all do their best and they put their best foot forward and they make their house as nice as they can and they dress in their best clothes every day. The thing is they probably only have about 3 changes of clothes. But if they're living with a group of family members, which they normally do, they probably share all of that as well. In the PowerPoint, you will see the government building. I believe it's slide 6. And you will notice this beautiful, modern, well-maintained building. And there's not a darn soul in there. They don't go there. But they have a building that the people around have to pay to keep nice. But there is very rare, maybe once or twice a year, does somebody come and actually use that building. So that just means that out in the outer lanes where we were, they don't care. They just don't. They don't have them in the political eye. And where I was right on the border of Nicaragua and Honduras, which was kind of cool, but we weren't even allowed to put 1 foot on the other side of the border there, so it is pretty strict, pretty dangerous. The other group that did get to go right up to the border, the doctors, they actually had people with guns come approach them and tell them that they were not allowed to even put a toe over. Which is okay because Honduras is kind of in shambles. It has been for years. Nicaragua has been in recent years. Well, past years and then again in recent years. They're struggling. Nicaragua also has, as I said, every place has a goddess or a saint or both actually. Because it's so important for every town to have a saint or a goddess, if they happen to not have one for some reason, they'll literally come and borrow another town's for a while for their festivities so they can have it. The family structure, people live together just to make it. They share housing, they share food, they try to be pretty self-sufficient on the food. They have gardens and mango trees, and one of the really coolest things about the homes in Nicaragua is they don't actually use the house except for to sleep in it. The living room is basically the outside, so the house is built around an outdoor area. So when you walk into the door, you think you're walking into a house, but when you're really just walking into a large open space that they use for all living when it's not raining. They very rarely are inside, and you don't really go in the insides of the houses when you go visit either. There's some of the small businesses, like you'll see there's a lady that did somebody's wedding dress. You do get to go into her home in a certain spot to try on the dresses, but otherwise there's no reason to go in. I went into one house of my translators, and I have to tell you, video games, my translator was only 20. I had 2 young boys with me when I was doing the teaching. Video games are universal. I had 2 of the happiest American teenagers with me that I can possibly tell you after 8 days of hot weather and little kids. So when we had that nice little break, they went and played video games. What's quite interesting, and I didn't put it in the slides, is the only thing in that room that the kids had to play video games, which was my translator, who, he's in a poor family, he's been through it, was 2 lawn chairs, 1 small TV, and the Xbox. There was absolutely nothing else in there. No pictures on the walls, no couch, no nothing like that. And that part of the house, the inner part of the house, I guess had some bedrooms, but yeah, that's the way it is. but it doesn't bother them. And I hate to say it probably does bother them. But they love their town. Most of them could be asked to leave and go somewhere else. And most of them will say no because they want to stay with their families and they want to stay in their town. Many of the people there actually don't have jobs. They have like selling mangoes on the street to the tourists, or they have menial jobs like helping each other out. There's some little shops and stores where I was. And then you go down the mountain, you get to Managua, and it's a totally different story. You don't even know you're in the same country.